Hello everyone, thank you so much for clicking on today's story and welcome to my channel. In today's story, OP reaches out to Reddit because she inherited a large sum of money and she didn't tell her husband about it. Her husband is also extremely irresponsible with money, so I definitely understand where she's coming from. However, things do suddenly take a twist when the husband finds out that she has all of this money. Stay tuned for the update to find out. If you do enjoy the story, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a thumbs up. And before we move on to the story, I just wanted to take a second and thank all of my subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys are so wonderful. For those that are new here, if you do like my content and you'd like to support me, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. Anyways, thank you so much for your time and onto the story. I didn't tell my husband. My partner, who's a 31-year-old male, and I, a 25-year-old female, are having our second child. He hasn't been working due to an in-work injury, so for the last 2, going on 3 months, it's been very stressful for us. My paternal aunt gave me half of what she got from selling my grandma's house, her mother. She inherited it last year due to my grandmother passing away, and she spent 6 months getting my moochers of a father and brother out of the house and fixing it up. We haven't spoken since the funeral, but last week she called to meet for lunch, and when I went, she handed me a check worth over $200,000. I didn't understand, but she said that my grandmother thought of me as a daughter, and I was the only one other than her that took care of her and my grandpa. While they didn't have the money to give me, she sold the house and after talking to her husband, decided that I deserved half of it. My hormones were everywhere and she had to help me calm down because we were in so much debt. I felt so thankful. She told me that she wasn't giving anything to anyone else and would prefer me not to tell anyone, so I didn't. I put it in my account and once it cleared, I began slowly paying off my husband's and my debt. I paid people back that had loaned us money, cleared our credit cards, paid our cars off, put $10,000 in our daughter's savings account, and I plan to make one for our second child when it's born. I didn't tell my husband because we have separate finances and we have since we got together. He didn't even know what our debts were or how far behind we were, so I didn't think that he would notice. However, when he said that his credit score had gone up and that I had received a letter from my community college that my debt was paid, he asked me. I told him my aunt gave me money, but I didn't mention how much, and he tried accessing my bank account. When he couldn't get in, he took my debit card without me knowing and went to an ATM to check the balance. He yelled at me for hiding it. I told him that it doesn't matter because we were no longer in debt and that we could finish our degrees. He walked out and hasn't spoken to me in 3 days. I've requested a new debit card and have changed my information regarding my account because now I don't trust him not to try to buy something. I admit I should have told him, but it's not like he knows how much money I make from my job. I don't know what to do. Okay, so reading the comments, I need to answer some questions. 1. He doesn't like my family at all. I met him when I was a kid because he was my older brother's best friend. Things changed when we got together when I was 19. They don't speak anymore. He avoids anything to do with my family. 2. Most of our relationship is great. We agreed to have 1 kid because I dreamed of being a mom. But during the pregnancy, he treated me horribly, and even after our daughter was born, he continuously made me feel like a bad mom for asking him for help when I was exhausted, and he just wanted to play games or drink. He only started helping and being supportive after being separated for a few months and us getting counseling. 3. He and my daughter both have my last name. 4. I wanted joint finances when we got married and he didn't. I was only in debt for about $5,000 from my college at the time and he had some, but he told me that he had it covered, which I found out that he did not. 5. What I meant about him not knowing how much in debt we were is that he'd open up credit cards in both of our names and max them out, and when he couldn't use them anymore, he'd apply for more. I did not know this until hiring a firm to help get my credit back up. They told me that I could press charges or pay them off. I wanted to pay it off because he's my husband, and even if he put us in debt, I do love him. 6. We didn't want more children. He got into a fight with his sister and she did something that she shouldn't have, but he also refused to get snipped. We didn't find out that I was pregnant until it was too late for another option. So this is the narrator's note. Apparently in another comment she mentions that her sister poked holes into their condoms and then admitted it to doing it later. Like, what the F? Anyhow, back to the story. 7. We moved in with my mom to help us get back on track, and he got hurt at work. Yes, I believe he's depressed, but he's also blown all the money he has saved on video games, liquor, and pot. He didn't spend a dime on any of the debt that he caused, or for our daughter. He makes more than I do, but with the way that he spends his money, it's like we live on one income. 8. Do I trust him? Yes, I do in almost every way I can, except for money, and he's proven that again and again. I also have been giving him small portions of the money so that he can still go and do things that he wants. It's not like I'm just hoarding it away from him. I just didn't tell him that it wasn't for my paychecks like he assumed. 9. He has the pins to my debit card because while I didn't tell him about the money, I do let him use it when he needs to. I'm not sure if this is how you update, but I figured that I would go ahead and try. If you're watching my post, thanks for the advice, and even if some of the comments weren't that nice, I'm still thankful. Over the last 3 days, I've spoken to my mom and my in-laws. My husband reached out to her, saying that he didn't want to be with me anymore, but it wasn't because of the money. He felt forced to get married and have a baby, and even though we got pregnant with the second one because of his sister, he still blames me. After 6 years together, he refused to talk about it, even when we were in counseling. I asked his mom what he wanted to do because he wasn't answering my phone calls or messages, and she said that she sent him money for a plane ticket so that he could go to her. I'm heartbroken that she didn't tell him to try harder for his kids, especially since his dad left him and his siblings. But I can't force him to stay, and I have to think about them right now. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I spoke to a lawyer my friend used for his divorce yesterday, and he's going to help me draw up a divorce paper. He said my husband can go after the money, but he doesn't think that he will. I'm filing for full custody and will be asking for a minimum. And will be asking for a minimum in child support unless he wants to sign his rights over. I'm done being stupid and thinking he would grow up. I packed his things and hired a moving company to take them to his mom's house, so all his stuff will be gone in a few days too. My first clue that he didn't want our daughter was when she was not even crying asking where he is. She's just running around with me and my mom. I did send him a little bit of money for his travels and told his mom that I'll send the divorce papers as soon as I get them. She just told me okay and hung up. So that's what's been happening in the last few days. I haven't spoken to my soon-to-be ex-husband, and I'm now fully on my own since I was 19. I'm hoping that everything goes well. Hopefully, I don't have to update again. Hey guys, I thought that I wouldn't update again, but I figured that I could just give a final update on everything. My almost fully divorced husband signed the papers my lawyer sent him. These weren't the divorce papers, but I guess some sort of papers agreeing to what I wanted. And all he asked for was $2,000 so that he could buy his own car. He agreed to pay child support for our daughter and our now newborn son, who was born Saturday night. No one in his family asked for pictures or even his name, so I decided to block everyone I could find because they had no right to see him or my daughter. He agreed to give me full custody and told my lawyer that he didn't want visitation or anything. I did move money to my newborn savings account, and I'm making sure that my name is off of the credit cards that I paid off for him just in case he decides to use them again. My mom is the only person outside of my aunt and my husband who knows about the money, and as soon as I can go back to work, I plan on using some of it for a down payment on a house. My lawyer is going to help make sure my husband won't be able to have anything to do with it. If I have to wait longer, I will. But at the moment, that's my plan. My daughter is so in love with her brother, and my mom is helping me in the way that I wished he would have helped me. The rest of my money is in a separate account for emergencies. I also reached out to my advisors at my college, and I'm planning to start school again in August. I only had 1 year left to finish, but I had my daughter and wasn't able to go back, so I'm hoping everything works out. My lawyer said that it could take a few months for it to be finished, but he said that since my husband isn't fighting or changing anything that we wanted, it shouldn't take over a year. Also, I forgot, my money wasn't technically an inheritance. My aunt gave it to me and wrote it off as a gift. It was her inheritance, not mine. She just felt like I deserved it for caring for my grandma and grandpa. So in the US, if he wanted to fight for it, he could legally get half. So guys, what did you think about this? I think I personally have a lot to say. The first thing that I want to say is if we take OP's story completely outright, then that husband has some extreme walking red flags. Like, I don't think that people are truly compatible if they have so much incompatibility when it comes to finances. And this is something that I don't think is really talked about, which is coming to an understanding when it comes to finances when you're in a relationship. You really need to be able to have the same financial goals and financial point of views when going into a relationship. I don't think that it's compatible for one person to be very financially conservative and the other person to be very financially liberal when it comes to their everyday spendings and then expect them to work out. And I think people sort of phrase it in other ways, like, oh, she was very impulsive, or oh, he liked to really enjoy his games or stuff like that. I think the underlying problem here is incompatibility when it comes to priorities, particularly in the financial department and someone's relationship. So yeah, I'm definitely on the side about discussing these things when you get into a relationship. That being said, I also do wonder about what the husband's point of view was. Like, what on earth causes you to suddenly up and leave? Like, I understand from what OP said, it looked like OP's ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, did have some sort of abandonment issues. But that being said, I also would like to hear his point of view about how the dynamics were with OP and his relationship, and what caused him to suddenly up and leave. It's always good to have the other side of the story before forming huge opinions on the matter. Anyways, I'd be really interested to know what you guys thought. Please let me know in the comments down below. If you did like this story, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a thumbs up. And please subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories from Reddit with updates.